ASSET is the Agricultural Scientist Support Exchange Team. It is part of the Crop Engineering Consortium developed by Christian Rogers and part of the BECA JIC Alliance. ASSET was formed to help develop relationships between our region in the UK and Sub-Saharan Africa. It was also formed in order to help increase the effectiveness of early career scientists. There were three main activities in the ASSET program. The first was leadership and management training facilitated by HFP Consulting in Kigali, Rwanda in November 2015. Then after that, the participants engaged in 6 months of peer review on some document that was really important for their success. And finally, we had a follow-up session with professional trainers Vanda Morgan and Tony Clarkson in London to help revisit the learning that had gone on during the year and reestablish connections. The ASSET team is made up of 16 early career scientists, 7 of them working at the John Innes Center and 9 of them working at different institutions in Africa. And all in all, there are 12 different nationalities represented in the 16-person team. I feel really honored to have been part of the ASSET program in this first year. It's been a real privilege for me to get to know the participants and see their learning journeys through the program.
My name is Vanda Morgan, and I head up the Learning and Development team for the Biosciences Institutes. That includes JIC, and as part of the role, I get involved in what are the needs, what do people need at an individual level, what they need at a group level, a team level. And also design of programs, bringing in different people, which adds to the diversity of what we do as well, but also using some of the expertise and resources that we have within the departments to share their experience, share their knowledge and understanding. The concept of peer partnering, I think, is fantastic. I touched a moment ago on the fact that you have already within the institutes such a wealth of experience, of knowledge and understanding. Coupled with that, you've got diversity just within some of the teams. You know, you won't have 2 people with the same nationality or background. And then you multiply that by the number of teams there are in the institutes. Then you think about how you can share that outside of the institutes. So somebody may have a very different experience of education, for example. And there's been somebody who has an expectation that, yeah, I'll be told how to do this. They won't necessarily have developed their understanding of how to themselves be as creative and tap into their own expertise. And some of the things that I've seen with the peer partnering programs with ASSET, the different cultural inputs of, you know, yes, well, it's okay, you know, you can develop these things, have a go at it. What's untapping the resource within you? And I think that's been amazing, sharing those different conditioning cultural backgrounds, as well as the level of experience and understanding. Yeah.
So in my experience, international partnerships are all about people. So quite a lot of institutes and universities and organisations think that international partnerships are about memoranda of understanding or joint projects or pieces of paper, effectively. My view is that international partnerships really revolve around people. So what we're trying to do is ensure that the areas of the world where we're trying to build capacity, those people have the right links, both at JIC but widely in the UK and in Europe and in North America, for example. I think ASSET was fantastic. I think it focused on all of the right things, and it focused on the things that matter to early career researchers. So it focused on, you know, how they get on with their careers in terms of writing grants, in terms of writing manuscripts, in terms of making networks. So I think it touched all of the right things for early career researchers, and it built those partnerships, those friendships, those future collaborations. So I think a real success.
Simplest way of describing my work is I'm studying how plants are able to defend themselves, and exactly how they do this, how they sense a pathogen and mount their defense response. And we know that calcium is involved, and I particularly focus on the mechanisms that encode that calcium signal. The biggest challenges of doing a PhD, I think, mostly due to the fact that we're trying to expand human knowledge, so we don't know where we're heading all of the time or most of the time. And so we need to be able to deal with huge amounts of frustration and also inevitably imposter syndrome. And so this is quite hard and a big challenge. And also, since we have very limited time to do it as well, I think goal setting and time management become really important skills and challenges or skills to acquire. So over the next year, I will be submitting my thesis. So that's my main goal, which is really like a hard deadline. And so there, I think it can be a bit, it will be challenging. So the last few months will be stressful, trying to deal with a lack of time to do all the experiments that I think are required. And then also the writing itself, it's going to be a very long and technical document. And I've never done anything quite at this scale. And so writing full time for a few months will be challenging. ASSET really offered a variety of different things. And to me, the main thing that I took from ASSET was an improvement of my communication skills, especially when it comes to listening to other people, listening friends and colleagues. You could apply that to a variety of cases, and communicating things like feedback, instructions, issues, negotiation. So it can really be applied to a variety of different scenarios. And I think ASSET not only gave us the formal training to acquire these skills, but also the space to enforce them through the multiple rounds of reviewing that we had over the years. And these are really important skills in probably most workplaces. And maybe very few people have this opportunity to have this sort of formal training. And I think that was a major thing that I took from ASSET. So over the next year, to my friends and colleagues, I'm always happy to support any technical expertise I may have, discuss ideas, just listen and offer support to like the frustrations of day-to-day lab work, and also distraction as well. I'm always happy to do something outside the lab or help in any way.
The simplest way I can describe myself, I see myself as a wheat geneticist, and that means I'm constantly looking at the ways to improve the wheat crop by understanding the genes that control some important traits. So I'm basically gene hunting and trying to see how we can use that information to make better crops. The biggest challenge I face in doing this work, basically it's a big work, because the wheat plant and its genome is very complex and you can't do it all alone, and getting the resources to do the work and sometimes the funding to do the work as well could be a problem. But I think things are changing now. There is a lot more attention on wheat, and I should say I'm not too particular about wheat. I rather would embrace cereals crop generally. That would include wheat, rice, and maize. But getting the resources, the genetic and genomic resources, as well as the funding, have been the biggest problem, but things are changing. The ASSET program has definitely been of benefits to me. Since joining the ASSET program, my goal was that I wanted to get a publication out through the peer review process that ASSET affords, and that went very well, and I got the publication out as well, which is very good. And I've been able to make good contacts with people back in Africa. Being from Africa, but also being away from Africa for about 5 years, sometimes you lose touch, and sometimes you lose a sense of what actually is going on the ground. But having these contacts with people in Africa have sort of revived that. So it's been a win-win scenario for me. My goals for the coming year is to get independent fellowships. So I finished my PhD last year, and I want to gradually work towards independence. Well, in the long-term future, my plans are to return to Africa at some point and to help with the science work going back in Africa and capacity building. But I want to gradually move towards independence by getting a fellowship, possibly. Well, I need a lot of support to help me reach that goal, and the kind of support I need are just mentoring in the sense of how do I go about getting those fellowships, where do I get these fellowships from, and what are the things that are being considered by these funding bodies. So it would definitely be good to interact with ASET members who have had such experience, and to learn from them and to see how I can benefit from their experience to make the application process as stress-free as possible. I would like to also add that the ASET program has been wonderful, and particularly I want to acknowledge the contribution of Jody, who has been exceptional. I spoke with Jody at the inception of the program. It only came up as a thought, an idea, and to see it all come together in such a way as it being recognized even nationally is a good accomplishment. So well done, Jody.
I work with the Plant Genetic Resources Research Institute, PGRI. The PGRI is one of the 13 institutions of the CSIR in Ghana. The CSIR for Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. With the PGRI, we conserve plant genetic resources, and we also do research, any research concerning the plant genetic resources. And as a plant breeder in the institute, mainly I go on collection missions, and I characterize and evaluate the genetic resources for the institute. We have a lot of cowpea germplasm at the institute, so we go on with the characterization and evaluation. We also do some pre-breeding and give to other researchers and breeders, or even go on to release for cultivation. Currently, the most challenging issue for me is finance, to apply all the knowledge, things we learn in school, especially in biotechnology. We cannot apply because we don't have the equipped laboratory, and especially I would have loved to use knowledge in marker-assisted breeding to improve cowpeas, but the resources are not there, so that is the main challenge we have. The best thing that happened to me last year, 2015, was assets. First of all, I've been able to help others in reviewing their write-ups, technical reports, research papers, proposals. And this year I've been made one of the members of the review team, editorial board of my institute, and I believe that the asset has really helped me, helping others to put their scientific work into written. So asset was very good to me. Now I want to go into more teaching. So I'm hoping very soon I'll start. Even now I do some teaching, but it's not much. It's just part-time teaching with a private university. But I'm trying to get into the government university and do more teaching than research. And that will be that's what I want to do, doing research and teaching. And also, if I can have more experience on data analysis, because right now I'm not an expert, but there's always pressure on me to help others to analyze their data. Even currently, there is something on my desk that if I go back to Ghana, I have to help the student, a PhD student, analyze his data. But me, myself, I think I need more knowledge on biometry. Yes, I need more training in that area to be able to help so many scientists who are coming to me, and I'm struggling to help them. So if I have some more training on software that will do biometry to analyze data for the scientists, I'll be very grateful.
The simplest way to describe my work is I'm looking at how plant roots forage for nutrients in the soil. I'm focusing on nitrogen, which is the most important nutrient for plant growth and productivity. I'm working in an interdisciplinary project with me as a biologist, a biophysicist, and a computational biologist. And the results that I gained from my experiments in the lab is mathematically modeled and then implemented to tiny robots to understand how plant roots forage for nitrogen. The biggest challenge that I face at the moment is I'm currently at the critical period of my career, which is the transitional period. And like people and friends that are in the same situation, we are currently searching for the right path for our future career, whether to stay in academia or go for industry path, and even if we want to stay in academia, whether we want to do pure research or teaching or combination of the two. I'm interested in underutilized crops, and my plan is to integrate the basic sciences, the molecular biology, the cell biology part, with something that's more applied, such as these underutilized crops. And the biggest challenge is there are not a lot of opportunities out there for this type of research, and most of them require a more independent position in order to pursue it. So the ASSET program really gives me an opportunity to interact with other scientists in Africa, and it really, I guess the biggest impact that ASSET had for me is that it changes my perspective in the important issues and concerns regarding agricultural research in Africa. So before ASSET, the knowledge that I know, the knowledge that I gained about agricultural problems in Africa is just through scientific articles and research papers. And when I actually discussed with the African scientists during the ASSET program, I realized that there are more to it. It's not just pest and pathogen and drought, but surprisingly more research is needed on underutilized crops. And that actually the projects that the ASSET researchers are actually doing. So my goal for the coming year is to do a research project that will serve as a foundation for a long-term research focusing on underutilized crops. I would like to contribute to the research of underutilized crops by studying them to improve, to preserve, and also to promote these crops as alternative food resources. And if you look at most of the developing countries with these crops, most of these crops are important traditionally, and also it has close ties with close cultural ties to these people, and by actually promoting more of these crops, that would hopefully help with poverty and hunger in these countries.
The simplest way to describe my work is I'm a lecturer teaching undergraduate students in the Department of Agriculture, and I teach crop-related subjects. The biggest challenge that I face in this work is lack of enough capacity, especially in the area of genetics and plant breeding, which are the cutting-edge sciences right now. So we have a very limited source of human resource, and there's many times you can't like consult or have exchange of ideas with other people. So you end up being having to work alone or to consult with friends, international friends that I've made and all that. There are about 3 or 4 major ways that my experience with ASSET has affected me. First of all, the training in leadership and management with HFP strengthened me as a leader. And right now when I'm in the lab and in the classroom, even in the office, I can try to I take from that experience, from that knowledge, and apply it in my work. And another way is I was trying to write my paper, but I was stuck. I didn't know how to proceed with a draft. But through the ASSET peer review exchange, I got a kickstart into it. And by now I can say I'm through with it. It's just ready for submission to the peer review journal. And the third way is I got international connections, friends whom I can now consult with and strengthen my collaborations. In the coming year, I would like to proceed with my PhD. I've kind of like reached a point where the plans that I had before did not come through, and I have to like start all over again. So that's what I'm hoping to achieve the next year. The support that I need is maybe some contacts for people who are looking for a PhD student in the area of molecular biology and genetics, because back home in the home universities which are offering the crop-related sciences, they are not doing molecular biology at all. So even if I would apply, I would still know there's no course for the skills that I've already acquired. So if there is assistance that I can receive in that area, it would really help me a lot in achieving my goals. I think the way that I would support some people is if they're looking to come and do some research in Uganda. There are so many opportunities at our university that I can welcome them and even connect them to. And then we can also have a collaboration in some of the research. Also, I can recommend some people to other institutions because I also have connections within the country. I just want to appreciate the fact that I was chosen to be part of the ASSET program. It has boosted me a lot in my career, even back home, when I present my papers and show my certificates and tell them I've been part of the peer review, I have been part of that leadership training. It has helped take my career to another step, and then I'm given more responsible positions in my office.
So the simplest way to describe my work, my PhD work, is if, well, you think of a tomato, like when you buy the tomato in the vine, they are like full of hairs. So I'm trying to understand how those hairs like develop. And the reason why I do that is because we think that can give tolerance to different problems that we have in agriculture, like insect attack or drought with all the climate change. So yeah, that's probably the simplest way to describe it. So the biggest challenges I face in my work right now are probably career instability. I think that's probably a main issue for everyone in science, but it's true, like I'm very lucky to have a lot of resources for my work. So I basically, whatever I want to do, I normally can do it. So in that sense, I'm not very limited. But when you think of what's going to happen after, that's always a bit scary, and that affects also your motivation, and that can lead to trouble in your work too. Well, I think my experience in ASSET have affected my work and myself also in two main ways. first as a boost of motivation because, well, we kind of always get stuck in our work and we really like what we do, but we don't see the big picture. And having the chance to talk to other people that are working, like in, for example, African scientists working more in applied science, made me feel like we can do a lot to contribute to like the main problems that agriculture is facing in the world now. And also it was a boost of confidence because like through the peer review process, I felt like I could give input to other scientists and that actually was meaningful and that was really important to me in my personal development. That's tricky, but my main goal for the upcoming years is first to finish my PhD and do it as well as I can, like trying to get good results and good publication out of it. But after this experience, and in general for what I'm experiencing now, I really want to have my future work focus on international agriculture. I don't want it to be just science. I want it to have an impact, and there's a lot we can do, as I said before. So I think that's something I want to like have as part of my future work. Well, that's also hard to answer, but I think the main support I need is having contacts, people like are working in similar fields of what I want to do in the future. So I think assets and all these kind of opportunities are really good for that because, as I said, you get to know people that are working on those problems, of those global challenges for agriculture that I would like to address myself in my future work. So I think probably like getting to know them better and getting to know more and more people would be essential for my future. Well, I guess I can give support to other people in many different ways. I think I'm quite approachable and I try to be like that. So I really like collaboration and I think I can like trigger these kind of collaborations between institutions and between people. I'm always trying to help people. So for example, through peer review, these kind of things like trying to read their science, understand it and giving feedback. That's something I enjoy and I think I can do it quite well for other people.
The simplest way to describe my work will be plant virologist or molecular plant virologist. Currently, I'm working on a root crop called taro. It is very important root crop in the Pacific, in the Sub-Saharan Africa and Asia. The biggest challenge that I faced in my work, there is not much interest on the crop because the production is declining too much, and then there's not much support from research stations as well. So sometimes it's really hard to get proper support to push the work a little bit harder. But currently with my supervisors from Australia and then another 2 supervisors from Africa and 1 from Becca, we are getting things progressing very well. The experience with ASET was so fantastic. First of all, I got a chance to meet new, young, and very brilliant scientists from different parts of the world, working on different agricultural problems and challenges. That was really a good opportunity. On top of that, the peer reviewing activities we did through the year, it was really good for me. It increases my confidence on writing and also my skill. But last but not the least, the workshop we had in Rwanda, the leadership and management workshop, it was a big milestone in my career. So ASET was a fantastic opportunity for me. For the coming year, I have big 2 goals. The first one, to finish my PhD, and I'm very positive about it. The second one, I'm trying to develop a research project in collaboration with 2 other researchers from Africa. And then we are very positive to push that research project idea into a real project and implement and change. Somehow contribute to the farmers as well. These are 2 of my big projects for next year. To reach and achieve those goals, I really need my contact with ASET peer reviewing group, because to have a well-polished thesis, I need to go through that peer reviewing process again. And on top of that, to have a well-written project proposal, I might need as well the contact and support from the ASET team that I have. So I might go back again and then contact my ASET team and then get things done. There are different ways which I like to give support to others. even now, I'm encouraging my fellow other researchers and PhD students to keep their eye open for any asset program if it comes, because I learn a lot from the asset program. So I'm telling them and encouraging them to be involved in such activities like asset. On top of that, I'm very willing to assist other students in peer reviewing and also collaboration in research.
I work at the National Root Crop Research Institute, known as NRCRI, Umudike, Nigeria. But presently, I am an award fellow, and award is African Women in Agricultural Research and Development. And I am on research attachment to the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center. My work is very exciting, labor intensive, but challenging in a good way. Yeah, I'm really thrilled about my project. Yeah, I'm using the cutting edge technology, CRISPR-Cas and Golden Gate technology to kind of understand the roles of sweet gene in cassava bacterial blight disease, and hopefully to develop or engineer resistance to this disease using CRISPR-Cas technology. The biggest challenge I face in my project right now is time constraint. And as a matter of fact, for you to do an effective work and make constructs and develop transgenic plants and analyze them and test them for the traits that you are interested in, you need nothing less than 2 years. But I just have 9 months, so I'm really working like crazy to get the job done. Yes, the asset program has affected me positively, and the most impacting experience was the leadership program. That was actually the first leadership program I've ever been to, and it kind of opened my eyes to who I am and my leadership style. And every time I try to remember, you are task-oriented, you have to be people-oriented, you know, that kind of thing. So that was one of the things. And then secondly, development of my documents. I was trying to write up an aspect of my PhD thesis. I was really encouraged by the feedbacks I got from my colleagues, and it actually made the document a workable one. My goals for the coming year, I hope to finish up my advanced science training, and I'm hoping to go home with a CBB resistant plant, and then to go home and test it in the greenhouse at home. And then also, I was privileged to get a sub-award contract, and that is giving me a big role to play. I'm going to be the country PI for the project, and that is the next target I have, to lead that project in Nigeria, and then to go home with my plants and evaluate them. What do I need to achieve my goals? Right, I need collaboration, lots of collaboration, because the new role I'm going to take back in my country is a new thing. I've never done it before. And then there is this issue of communication in sciences, which is an entirely new area for me. So I need a lot of collaboration in that area. Now, how I would like to support others in the future? Yeah, I hope to try to kind of give my mentees and people working with me an opportunity to travel out and also get the kind of experiences that I've gotten. And as a matter of fact, I have my award role modeling events coming up, and I want to use that event to advocate for capacity building for my mentees. I really want to say thank you to Jody and the Asset Group, and it was really a wonderful experience, and I'm happy to be part of it, and thank you.
The simplest way of explaining my work is that I look at how plants have picked up the ability to perceive what's around in their environment, and how that ability has changed over the course of evolution of plants. I'm looking at what mechanisms are in the plant allow this to happen and how those mechanisms have evolved. Some of the biggest challenges that I've faced through the course of my PhD is I'm originally from India. I moved for my PhD to the UK, and obviously there's many differences between how the society functions in India and in the UK, how academia functions inside India and the UK, and it was quite a challenge in the beginning getting used to some of the things like the hierarchy in academia and everything. They're very different between India and the UK. That was one of the challenges in the beginning, but that was a very fruitful experience as well, learning about how the cultural aspects affect the science that's happening. And the other thing that I can think of would be communication as well. So when I started out, I would say that I was more of an introvert. I wasn't one of these people who was very comfortable going up and talking to people. And experiences like Asset have helped me make more friends, feel more comfortable talking to people about my work, and I think that's another challenge that I've faced through the course of my PhD. One of the major ways that it's affected me is because of the tremendous diversity in the Asset program. And one of the things that I wasn't expecting was how, even though all of us are coming from very diverse backgrounds, but a lot of the challenges that we face, both within science, outside of science, were very similar, and it was very easy to connect with people when we were talking about these challenges. And those conversations, I think, they'll stay with me for a long time. Some of the common challenges are things like how the funding environment changes the entirety of science. And this seems to be a challenge that both people in developing countries like India and many countries in Africa, and also the developed countries, everybody is facing this problem, and that's one of the common challenges. And the other parts were mostly the often ignored parts of science, which are not talked about too often, which is the emotional aspects, the more human aspects of science, where a person's relationship with their advisor and the environment in the lab. And although each lab is different, each student's relationship with their advisor is different, but there were quite a few common themes that emerged from our conversations, and I think that's another one that I found particularly interesting. In a year, I'd hopefully wanted to have completed my PhD, handed a successful thesis in, and after that, I'm exploring some career options, and most of them involve looking more at data science, doing data analysis, and I hope with the next year that I'll be able to pick up some skills that would position me so that if I wanted to venture down this route, then I would have the necessary skills to go there. Obstacles, I think the obstacles that might be in my path are picking up the necessary skills, and also being able to communicate effectively to people, both about the science, about the intricacies involved in how the analyses work, and just in general getting more acquainted with how things like the publishing process works. And we've had a good experience with the manuscript preparation for Asset, because I wrote a chapter of my thesis as part of Asset, and some of the other people that I reviewed their documents, they were writing papers, and it was a nice experience to see how the process of writing goes through as you get reviews and you incorporate them. So I think that's helped from Asset. And yeah, those are the most important challenges I think that I'll be facing. I guess having things like somebody who's done this sort of transition before, finding a mentor, and getting some advice from them on how to actually go from point A to point B. That I think would be very helpful. One of the things that I enjoy doing is helping people learn something new. So because I'm good with certain things in the lab, I like showing people how to do it. So probably helping people pick up a new skill that they might be interested in, facilitating them getting those resources that they need to do the science that they want to do.
The simplest way of describing my work is I look at the beneficial symbiosis between plants and fungi in the soil, and I look at how plants regulate the establishment of this symbiosis. I think the biggest challenges right now don't really have to do with the work that I'm doing right now, but it's more the fact that I'm finishing my PhD and I have to think about the next step in my career. And I think the biggest challenge is to find out what I want to do in the future, what I want to stay in research, what I want to do something else, and what my options are. My goals for the coming year are to first finish my PhD in January and pass my viva and get all the corrections done, and then focus on publishing a paper, getting all the remaining experiments done, and then really do the next step and move away from the Johnniness and find somewhere else to work. So the support that I'm hoping for is to get advice from my supervisors and from maybe people who are a bit further in their career to find out how did they find out what they want to do, what kind of options do I have, what's a realistic option that I have, and how can I tackle this question of what I want to do in the future. So I think that the thing that has most affected me is what we learned in the course in Kigali, but then also during the exchange that we had with the different participants of the program, where we learned how to give feedback in a productive way that helps others to improve their work, but also to receive feedback and really take the bits that are most useful and do something with those. And in the last year, I really noticed how my interactions with people have changed and how they have become more productive and more positive. And I think it's really important in science in particular to get the input from many different people and be able to work with that, but also to tell people what you think about their work. And that has really improved in the last year. I think that was the biggest impact that I have noticed from doing the ESSET program. I think the way I can give support to others is there's a few specific ways. So I think scientific writing is one way. That's a topic that I really enjoy. I really do enjoy the writing, but also giving the feedback on other people's work. And the other thing that I really enjoy is teaching as well. So I really enjoy teaching people, for example, techniques in the lab, so that they can then go on to do their independent work and build up their confidence as well, so that they know what they can do and then just go on and do it.
The simplest way of describing the work that I'm doing is to characterize my potato genotypes from Eritrea using molecular tools. The biggest challenge that I faced doing my work is lack of training with its new approach, the technology to me. So that is lack of expertise in training is the biggest challenge I had in this work. Asset affected me in my work a lot. First of all, it helped me how to interact with people, with peer group, how to receive and give response with peer group, and also how to listen and communicate, and above all, motivate friends. So it helped me a lot in improving skills and communications with my friends. My goals in the coming years would be, I have short and long goals. To start with, the short is to finish what I'm doing currently, the PhD, to achieve my PhD goal, and my long term would be to pursue postdoc because the training and skills I have acquired from my PhD study has sparked me a special interest in me to pursue and do more advanced level of these biotechnology tools to use, so that cause impact in the grassroots level for farmers by maybe developing a variety or in fortifying nutritional content of the potato crops that I'm doing with. The kind of support that I need to achieve my goals would be First of all, maybe, as I mentioned, lack of, maybe if I can get an opportunity to expose myself to special training where I can be able to use the technology, and maybe another opportunity to continue my study at postdoc level is also kind of support that I might need to achieve my goals. Well, I know what it means to get a support from my own experience, so I want to help. I'm always keen and ready to help others who need my support, so I'm always ready to support them because I know what it means to get support.
I used to work at John Innes. I did a PhD there. I'm now currently a student at the University of East Anglia, and I'm studying teacher training. For my PhD, I worked on plant microbe interactions, and currently, as I say, I'm studying to be a teacher now, secondary school children. I think for me, the biggest challenges I'm facing are the change from being a postgraduate student, working independently on my own steam, and now when I become a teacher, I'm suddenly going to have input from a lot of other people, and I won't necessarily be able to do everything I want to do. I might have to compromise more in my work, whereas when I was a PhD student, it was very much I drove all the work. The ways ASSET have affected me over the past year has been a real sense of having an understanding, albeit a little understanding, of meeting other people and how it is for scientists in Africa. I guess we all have this idea of what it might be like being in Africa. You see things on television, you think that it's impoverished and maybe they're not as well educated, and then I've met these scientists and they're all inspiring, intelligent, well-educated people who really want to make a difference, and actually we're all very similar, and that's fantastic. My goals for the coming year are to be trained to be a teacher in the best way I can. I really want to be able to inspire young people, and in the way that really I'm inspired by the scientists I've met over ASSET, and yeah, hopefully they can really enjoy science and not just think it's boring like some people do. And I think with Vanda as well, Vanda and Tony, they really give me really great ideas about the tools that I can use in the classroom, and that's really inspiring as well. My personal needs to reach my goals are probably practical. So I've got children and my teacher training is going to be really intensive. So, and also maybe quite emotional, because I think it's going to be a very emotional journey. I've been told as such. And I think, yeah, I think help with from my friends and people and my family to keep encouraging me, and when things get tough, keep going and I'll get there. How can I see myself supporting others? I think the obvious answer to that is, supporting pupils in the classroom. I think the main support for me would be support not just from an academic point of view, but also support in understanding that the struggles they face during teenage times are really difficult, and trying to connect with them and make them realise that actually, there's some empathy there, with not just the fact that, yes, let's learn about science, but also let's understand that life can be tough, and I hope I can achieve that, because that's the kind of teacher I want to be.